Today we'll be learning how to use transforms to move in Unity. So what are transforms? Transforms are the things that decide the position of an object in the Unity scene. So as we can see, this cube's position is 0.16, 0.49, and 0.06. We will be modifying these values using the transform component in Unity to move our objects across the screen. So let's open up our movement script from last time, which was our rigid body episode. And we can just comment out this and create a new void. Okay, so now let us start coding it. I copied over the key codes that we used in the last tutorial for the rigid body movement. Now this form of movement is relatively simple. So we know that D on our keyboard is right. Now, our camera's orientation is directly above it. So if we take our cube and we move it to the right, we notice that the X value is changing positively. So that means we want to do transform.translate. We want to change the X by positive 0.1. Make sure you add the F at the end to define a float. And then we don't want to move up and we don't want to move forward. So we can try this. Remember to call our function. There we go, our function is being called and we can now test. And as you can see, our cube moves. So now we have to copy this over and figure out the rest of these. So for A, it would be negative 0.1 because that is left. For W, we don't know because we know it'll be on the Z axis. So if we take our player and move it on the Z axis, we know positive is forward, which means that for W, we want positive 0.1. And for S, which is backwards, we want negative 0.1. Now this is a very super simple way to create movement for a game. Because we have a rigid body, some things may mess up, so if we remove the rigid body components and we play, we will get an error code because it's in our code, but you can see we can move our cube. Now our cube moves super quickly, so we can adjust these values by just changing them. So add a 0 to make it a lot slower. And now we have very simple movement. Now this is the first type of movement we will be practicing today. The next one is something called lerping. So now let's talk about what lerping is. Now lerping is drawing a line between point A and point B. What the script will do is it'll draw a line between these 2 points, and then every frame it'll set the value of the vector to a percentage of these points, which will create a division that looks like this. Now this is super useful for getting from one point to another, as you can get point A and point B and travel between them relatively easily. You can also travel at diagonals, and the script will always travel in a straight line. This is how we will be making our enemy movement in our tower defense series, so you can go and check that out. So now let's code our code. So we obviously need a point A and a point B as I showed in the diagram. So if we go into our Unity, let's create a very simple point A and point B. So if we multiply the size of our plane so that we can have more, and make the main camera a child of our cube so that it moves with the cube, we can make this move from point A to point B. Now, first let's create a capsule, and this will be our point A. Then we can duplicate this and create our point B. Now you do not have to use a capsule for this. You can actually directly input the coordinates, which is what we will be doing in our tower defense game. However, we can move to point A or to point B. So we can create two code combinations. So we'll do B and A. And in each of these, we will move to those respective positions. Now here is where it gets a little bit complicated. We want to grab the transform of both those objects. So we do public transform A, and we can do public transform B. However, in the editor, if we have, say, 10 different positions we want to move, it will be very annoying to label all of them. So an easier way is to make one transform and turn it into an array. This is by adding two square brackets at the end of transform. So we will call this transforms because transform is a component in mono behavior, so it will glitch out on us. And as we can see under movement, we now have a list. So we have 2 points, A and B. And so we can put those transforms in there. Now, if we want to travel to point B is element 1, as we see in the inspector, which means we want to take transforms 1. So let's create a vector 3, move 2, be equal to vector 3 dot lerp. And so our first position is our transform dot position. And our next position is transforms 1 dot position. Now next we need a percentage of how much of the line it will travel for every frame. And so we will make this around 0.1. Make sure the F is at the end to define as a float. Now we can set our position to move to the vector we just defined. In that way, our position will be set to the decimal, that the sizing in between the two objects, which are our cube and capsule. So now if we click A, we didn't do A. If we click B, we move there. So that works. Now if we copy this, sorry, I forgot to do A, we just change this to 0 as the index is 0. So if we go A, we're here, B, we go there. And we can just switch between the two. Now if we pull our game window somewhere else so that we can watch it, we can see that it moves very smoothly between the two. Obviously that you can make your own camera controller script that would make this look a lot better. However, for the sake of this tutorial, I kept it simple and just put the cube as the parent. Now one other thing we can do to actually show it is if we look at the whole thing, and let's say our cube was an enemy, we can of course trigger that very simple code and move them between 2 points. We can do it at different values, so if we make it a 0.01, that will make it quite slower. So as we hold down the button, it'll move towards them. And we can see it also implements deacceleration. It starts very fast and it ends slower. And that is some super smooth movement. Thank you for watching. Remember to leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you like our channel. You can also check out, we will be posting a time-lapse soon of programming for a UI update for our game. Join our Discord to get the notification. And yep, I will see you whenever we post again.